Richard. How goes it, buddy?
Happening. How you doing this week?
You know what? This week has been a pretty fast week. It always seems to be a whirlwind. Time seems to be speeding up. But no, it was good. Now, unfortunately, I don't know if the weather is still the same, but it was supposed to get snow today.
Hey, Alex.
And I think you and I were chatting about that the other day, and I think I jinxed it. So.
Well, yeah, because you said you didn't have any, and then I'm like, oh no, not a good idea. My God,
right?
How's it going? Yeah, it's guys, we've already got a bunch of folks in here. Really happy to see you all. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on.
Man, we've got a bunch. What's going on, Judy? So a couple of housekeeping things. We didn't announce it last week. I'll take that heat. It's my fault. We do simulcast to the Pun Network, Paranormal United Network website. We do there, but we've also engaged in a second network agreement, and that is for Things Network. Both of them are going to offer us some great opportunities to get to people we haven't been able to get to. So we're very thankful for those two relationships. To us, it's a great thing to be able to reach out to more people. We love it. Man, we got so many people. Meg, how's it going? Alex, how's it going? Stephanie, what's up? Tara, Ava, Colette, Michelle, woo, paranormal consultant. Okay. Adam Tripler, Nikki, good to see you again. Wow, where's your mirror? Where's your mirror?
My goodness. Guys, as we mentioned, because we're simulcasting, I can't see everybody's comments. So I've got a couple different screens going on here. If you see me looking down, I am paying attention to you. I'm trying to keep up with the comments. I may not be able to see all of the comments because we're on 3 different channels right now. So that being said, if you have a comment, I mentioned this at the beginning of every show specifically for me. Please don't hesitate to put my name in the comments, and Richard will make sure I get that question. I'm not ignoring you. I just might not be able to see it.
And also, too, to kind of add to that, we cannot see who you are by the viewership. We have to be able to have you make a comment or something. Like all these great folks in here saying hi and everything else. Good to see you all, but that is the only way we know who you are making a comment. If you are a first-time viewer, we will actually, if the question you're posting or the thing you're posting here in the chat room is something relevant to the conversation point or something you want to get out that's relevant to the conversation point, we will drag that question on screen. We do now have the full studio back again, which I'm extremely happy about. So we do have that ability. So if you're not wanting to be shy, we can and we will pull up the questions or responses, statements, whatever you're willing to offer up that's relevant to the actual subject matter, which is tonight what?
Tonight we're talking about, so you want to be a paranormal investigator, huh? In other words, you think you want to do investigating. You think this is, or maybe you have already started investigating. You're a seasoned investigator, you're looking to change things up, to change your style, or to better your style, or maybe you even have something better to offer. That's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Some of the things, the do's and don'ts, some of the homework you do before the investigation, after the investigation, and maybe some of the equipment that you may want to use as well. So it's going to be really good. Can I just jump in really quick? Guys, I just want to say thank you. Richard and I are so blessed to have such a loyal following, such a loyal crowd in the chat rooms. And every week we do our show and we touch on the comments and the questions, but there's also some really awesome dialogue that's happening. You guys are kind of in your own little family as well, and you're able to say hi to each other and to comment and to kind of get in there and explain things. So I just want to say thank you, because that really makes my heart full, and I know, Richard, it makes your heart full to see that we have such a camaraderie here. That's the whole point of this, is to build a family, to build a team, to build a group of people that have no fear in asking questions and to touch onto the unknown. This is why we're doing what we're doing. So just a shout out to you guys. Thank you.
Well, that's really sweet of you. Yeah, it was right on my mind to do it, so thank you for stepping in and doing it for me. Right off the bat, Alex, I knew you were female, or I would say you're the prettiest guy I've ever seen in my entire life. Yeah, I got you, hon. I see the picture, so I got you. I appreciate it. I bet the way you spell your name, spirits do get confused. I bet, because she spells it Alex, which is usually short for Alexander. or Alex, Alex for the mail. But I bet that does. I always stay confused, so we never know. I had to throw a joke in there somewhere. Reel me in. It's okay.
Thanks, guys, for sharing. By the way, we always mention it at the end of the show. Thanks for sharing. If you like what you're seeing, if you want to be able to share it with your friends or colleagues, go ahead and give it a share. We appreciate that. Okay, and I can see that there's people who have already done that. So thanks again.
Yeah, thank y'all. Y'all. My God, I want Southern there.
Oh.
Hold on a minute. Oh, I've lost my Brooklyn heritage. I can tell now. It's coming out. Hey, Lori, how's it going? I almost lost my voice. And what in the world's going on? Maybe it's paranormal. Who knows?
Who knows, right?
Who knows? Yeah, guys. I've had these questions. I run a lot of events, and I'm very proud to say we do a lot of different, very historic locations, and I'm very proud to have the opportunity to do so. But it is never ending that when I come in early for the event, people are mulling around and hanging out, waiting for start times. I will always get hit with that question. What do I have to do to be a paranormal investigator? What do I need? And honestly, the list is so long. For me, you got to do a lot of things, and we can do it by subject matter right off the bat. For me, the one thing I always ask people when they say, I want to be a paranormal investigator, my first question of them, and I want to hear yours, Katie, my first question to them is, do you want to do residential, or do you want to do active locations that are not residential? Which one do you think you want to serve in? And here's the reason why I ask that question, because there are a lot of teams that go out there, they get new into this business, and they go out there and they go to a person's house that's having a lot of issues or issues, period. And the first thing they do is go in there and crank the crap out of it. And then they leave. You get to leave. The homeowner doesn't. And they never got any help. All they do is have you raise the activity level in most cases in the place. And it's a good place. It's nice to get enjoyment out of investigating. But I really would like to see, and this is personal opinion, people can hang me for it, and I'm good with it, but I would like to see people who just want to have a good time investigating go to a haunted location, go to a haunted venue, go to an active venue. Don't involve a family. And if you're going to involve a family and you don't know exactly what you can do to help them, engage somebody else, engage a psychic medium, engage an experienced team. Hey, this is what's going on at this house. What do you recommend? Well, you can never be too proud to ask for the help, because that's paranormal unity, and that's what we believe in as well.
Agreed. Absolutely. In my experience, it takes an awful lot for most people to be able to reach out and ask for help. Okay, especially with a taboo subject. Now, this is becoming more mainstream. Paranormal is something that is not as judged or kind of stand backish anymore. And I think the internet, thanks for that. The internet, television, all those things is really, really good for kind of bringing that to the forefront. But people are still scared. People are still afraid of that judgment. And so reaching out, not only that there potentially could be something paranormal, but to the fact that they could be crazy in their mind. Am I seeing things? Is this really happening? It's a lot for them to do that. And so for somebody to put a shingle out, pardon the pun, and, say that they're investigators, to go in just to simply find evidence without kind of knowing the ins and outs of everything can be quite dangerous, as you said. And those people have to go back. Not to mention the fact that not all paranormal investigators are equated the same. In my opinion, there are those that, confidentiality is not necessarily important to them. And so the next thing you know, the community knows about it, and these people wanted to keep it quiet. So, you have to remember that this is something that must be taken seriously. And as Richard said, if you are choosing to get into this because you want to find the evidence, and we all do. If any investigator says they don't care about the evidence, they're lying. Okay, we all want the Holy Grail, we all want the experience, but it comes down to the professionalism and the knowledge of the team. Now, all teams have to start somewhere. I did, Richard did. We all made mistakes. We all learned. We all had to grow. We all had mentors that we tried to look up to kind of get those answers. And this is where we sit now. Is that if we can offer any type of advice or any information, this is what we want to do. So. Richard, what would you say would be the most important part of the investigation? Where do you want to start?
Learn where you're building. Learn about the history of the building. Learn about previous claims. If there's something on YouTube that was recorded at the location, look it up. Just find whatever you can, because when you go in to do an EVP session, even something as basic as an EVP session, wouldn't you want to know a little bit about who might be there? Wouldn't you want to know a little bit about what might have happened? I know down here in the South in the U.S., the buildings I have, some of them are pre-Civil War. There was some crazy, nasty stuff that went into some of these buildings that is still going on now. So you're going to want to know what you're walking into. And like Alex said, we always learn, every investigation is different. It absolutely is. Brian said, if you want to help, join a group and for a year or so sit back and learn. Yeah, that's not a bad idea either. The thing I found, and I don't mean to be in a soapbox with this issue, but I'm just going to be for a minute. The pride that has really sifted into the paranormal scares me, because we've gotten to a point where prideful minds and prideful hearts about a location or about how you investigate. There's no reason to be prideful about any of this. There is enough spiritual activity going on that everybody can have a piece of the pie. So learn from one another, talk to one another. I used to, and I've talked about this before, I used to have a group that was made up of other groups in the area called the Paranormal Mafia. I mentored these teams. These teams, if I had an investigation that had to be done in Alabama, I had a team. If I had one that had to be done in the other end of Tennessee, I had a team. North, I had a team. South, I had a team. And we all got together once a month and just, hey, what's going on? What do we got here? What's going on there? I wish we could go back to that with a lot of people. But again, there's something to me that kind of bugs me about the paranormal now, is that a lot of people are going to this big old, this is our site and this is our, yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure the spirits in the building really like having the moniker of being your slave. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I'm off my soapbox now.
That's okay. I think, as you said, ego plays a part, and, ego drives the world in a lot of respects, and there has to be confidence in what you're doing. When you're entering a location, especially as a team, these people are reaching for help, and they want to know that you're there to potentially help them. You may not be able to solve all their problems, but if you can lend some light to it. So it's important to walk in with that confidence, but ego needs to keep itself at the door. As Richard said, there's many places to investigate, and we encourage you, if you guys want to get out and do this, please do it. I don't want people to be standoffish or afraid to try these things, but as Richard said, and as Brian mentioned, make sure that these people who are reputable, don't be afraid to jump onto a team or ask to be part of a team, to be part of an investigation. Right. Up here where I'm located, it's a little different. There's not as many teams. There's not as many, there's the population of teams in the States are a lot bigger, and I'm sure there's sparse areas as well. But, you're going to be able to find it. And even if that means that you don't actually insist on the investigation, if you're nervous to go to the investigation, but you're willing to go over evidence, I'm going to tell you right now, there's not a team out there that's not going to say, hey, you can come and listen to a few hours of audio with me. People are going, that's something that is important. It's just as important. Looking the evidence is just as important as the investigation, right? So Don't be afraid to do that stuff.
Well, and here's a statement from Nikki. Here's some best practices right here we're talking about sharing. She said, I strongly recommend not using Wikipedia. It is not a relatable resource, and taking the time to just look into the area can make much of a difference. Cite local offices, land censuses can make a big difference. Right. I go to the library. There's a lot of historical documents and information at the library, and the libraries are free to use. When you get there early enough to do a little bit of book reading, or even on the computer, you can find a whole lot of stuff. Nikki also says, that this is a great place to be able to network as well, ask away and connect. Yes, we do pride ourselves in this show being safe for anyone and everyone. We do hope that it's reachable and relatable to everybody that comes on here, no matter what your experience level in being an investigator is. So, thank you for that, Nikki, as well. Yeah, here's a funny statement. Alex said, "Every inch of this earth, someone died." I mean,
how do you deny that? I think it's important to go in to look at an investigation similar to a police investigation. A police investigation doesn't just stick at the crime scene per se. There's canvassing that's done. There's reconnaissance that's done. There's a lot of things that go on beyond the scenes. And it comes down to the neighborhood, the location, the family, the history, all of that. So it's important that if you are looking to go to a haunted location, or you're a victim of a haunting and you're afraid to reach out, or you're wanting to kind of put this to sleep on your own, don't be afraid to go to your local township office, municipality office. Don't be afraid to go to the libraries, as Richard said. You don't necessarily have to say, "I think my house is haunted," but you can ask for past information. Local real estate. Okay, you can go into a realty office and you can ask those questions. Was there a death at the location, or was there any traumatic events? In where I'm located, that should be disclosed, but you don't know what happened 50 years prior to that. So a lot of times realtors do know the past, or know the hearsay of it, and so you can enter those areas as well. It's important that you want to get the information correct. So just because you're fed a certain type of information doesn't mean you shouldn't do your background check and look around a little bit more. Okay, local police departments, those types of things. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the house. It could be something that happened down the street. Oftentimes, hauntings will occur in a specific location because of it could be a car accident or a train wreck that happened a kilometer away. A war battle went down, a few fields down, and you're getting that residual energy. So it doesn't necessarily have to physically be at your location.
Well, and again, another comment that Alex makes is, that's not Alex. There we go. Mistakes get made, replay in your mind's eye. And this is, again, this conversation point is just a fraction.
Hi, Tim.
A fraction of this and how it gets done. To me, this is just a start, just a bare getting off the ground portion of an investigation. And then, again, you have to go into another gear once you actually get to the location. I always recommend that we get to the location while it's still just ample daylight to do a safety walkthrough. A lot of these buildings, if you go into buildings, are old. A lot of them have unstable supports in the floor. They also might make noise. A lot of places still have the wood plank flooring. You can step here, but then you'll hear it all the way down here. You need to know that. You need to do that walkthrough. Hey, this handrail on the stairs is loose. Because I'm telling you, there's nothing worse than somebody going upstairs on the second or third floor of a building, handrail gives, they fall, God bless, what happens,
there's been another haunting, an instant haunting, just add creaky stairs. We don't want a death at an investigation. We're trying to investigate the prior death, not the future death.
Well, Tara says something I think is really interesting question. She said, how did you meet people interested in doing this with you? Well, I'll give you my story, and Kitty can give you hers. I was a police officer and arrived at a call with my partner. People were calling in about lights going on and off in an abandoned house. So we came in. He cleared to the left. I cleared to the right. I came across an apparition of a man standing right near the dining room threshold into the parlor. My weapon wasn't going to help that situation, but I had a conversation with so many people. Then all of a sudden, it's weird. It's really weird. I know everybody else can kind of relate to this, but you start speaking about a paranormal event that you've witnessed. All of a sudden, they're everywhere. People just popping out of the woodwork. Well, you know what happened over here? So, again, you get into people that get like-minded once they know it's comfortable to talk about it. What do you think about it? What got you to get people interested in going with you?
So I started... Okay, so I started in college with a group of friends. I was adamant I wanted to do this, and we ended up going to a haunted abandoned house. And we started there. So, fast forward, we had some friends and stuff getting into it. When I really got serious into it, I approached some of my closest friends that knew what I could do, that knew that I was interested in kind of rekindling a team on a serious note. And we held interviews. I simply put an ad out and said, listen, this is what, our team is currently hiring. If you'd like to join, we'd love to hear from you. And I had a group meeting and I had people come ask lots of questions, kind of recruited these people. And, I've gone through, every team goes through multiple people. It's, you have your diehards. I have my diehards on my team now are wonderful, wonderful people. They are like family. They are loyal. They are dedicated. They are honest. They are, they do what they do what they do best. And so you get that niche of people that are just as passionate as you are, and it just goes like butter. It's smooth as anything. So if this is something that you're wanting to do, don't be afraid to reach out to friends and don't be afraid to recruit people. Again, I would encourage you to go with other investigators that are knowledgeable, that know what they're doing, that know the equipment, so that they can kind of run it through you. Don't be afraid to use the internet. However, do your research as to where you're getting these things. There's a lot of fake stuff on the internet. Richard and I were talking earlier on kind of 101 basics of paranormal equipment, and both of us have brought some equipment to show tonight, just very quickly as to things that we use. But we'd like to do an episode of, kind of more of an in-depth explanation on how this equipment works so that you guys can kind of choose for yourself if this is something you'd like to use or like to experiment with.
And Brian brought up a good point. It's something I've never done before. He said, pro tip, when doing a walkthrough, bring 2 different colored glow sticks. You can mark off the dangerous sections with those. Good point. I like that, Brian. Nikki brings up something I think you discovered. What would you suggest as a starter kit for an investigation and how to process the information after the investigation? What a segue. I love the segues. So there are so many apps, and I feel it takes away from just sitting together and listening to the evidence collected. I mean, there's a lot of whistles and bells and lights and they look great when you're filming it on camera. They do. They put something in the audience's eyes and ears, which attracts them to what might be going on, might make them be able to feel dragged in and they feel like they're a part of it, which is the reason why I used to do it on my show. We're going to cover equipment, but just kind of to touch that point, I'm good with just the basics. You give me a digital recorder and a Bluetooth speaker and millimeter, I'm good. I don't want anything else. I'd rather not. If this is just me, I'd rather not. And we're going to get into that a little bit deeper, when we get to the equipment part of it. But when you walk into an investigation, again, we covered history search, then we covered safety walkthroughs, right? We can get into equipment now if you'd like to. If you want to bring up something that you brought with you for show and tell.
Show and tell. Guys, first I just want to kind of reiterate a little bit. As Richard had mentioned, the paranormal equipment is important in investigations. What you choose is your own personal preference. How you conduct your investigation is also your personal preference. Okay. Some of the pieces of equipment that I hold here that I'll be showing you quickly, I use when we are not present. So depending on how long or how big the location is, some of the activity occurs when nobody's around. And, we'll get a phone call and says the light has been on every night, or this has been occurring and that's been occurring. And you can stand there for 4 hours waiting for that light to turn on and nothing happens. But the minute you walk out of that room, something changes. And so some of these pieces of equipment we keep, and we keep static night vision or full spectrum cameras on them so that we can keep track of that. Now remember, every audio and video recorder that you have going, you have to play back each and every one. So the more cameras, the more homework you have to do. Okay, so usually each of our investigators has an audio recorder on them. We use MP3 recorders. We usually hang them from our neck or our armbands. I have a Tascam. This is a little bigger. I use this for my EVP burst sessions. So this is so electronic voice phenomena. It's really great. Now, I've mentioned 100 times on this show that one of my investigators, April, the historian on the team, she has a really awesome Sony. It's an older audio recorder, and it's awesome. So we use that as well all the time. Okay. So in terms of going audio, We have audio recorders all over. Now, the more you put up, as I said, the more you're going to have to listen through. So be prepared for that. In terms of video, I didn't bring any video cameras with me, but we do have, some of them are 4K, some of them are 1080 HP. We will use those in terms of a full spectrum. So to explain full spectrum means that some of the UVs have not been removed, that it's actually picking up a different spectrum of UV light than what we can see with our mind's eye, okay, or with our actual sight. Night vision camera or IR cameras means that, you know, you can see them at night. So you're seeing that night vision happen. So we'll set up a closed circuit television. We use wires, so you don't use a remote or cordless wires, because I find that there's a lot of interference and sometimes it can contaminate your evidence. So we have a lot of wires that we run depending on how big the location is. And we set up a home base where the system is going. We don't have to be sitting there watching the system because we can play it back as it's being recorded, but that's how we set up our systems. What about you?
Yeah, I don't do DVRs anymore because I've spent over 40 hours running video back.
All right.
Yeah, I don't do it anymore. I've got a team member, my new lead investigator on my team. She loves using her DVR. God bless her. Honey, you can go through your, 60, 70 hours, whatever you want to run, go for yours. This is not something I do. Now, of course, my recorder, Sony ICD UX 560, they're about $70 on eBay. They are real-time EVP, have an excellent microphone system, stereo. I jokingly tell everybody I can actually hear a gnat fart at 100 yards. And I mean, seriously, when I do events, I get people that I tell them, don't whisper because I'll hear it. And if it's about me, I'm going to be upset. But I can literally hear people whispering from 30 or 40 yards down the hall with this thing. And that's kind of the reason why I get it. Plus it's light, it's mobile. I slip it into an MP3 player holder in my arm. And that's it. I literally will pop earbuds into it, or I'll use a Bluetooth speaker and do what I call EVP blast, which is where I go through and ask about 89 questions and repeat it back on a Bluetooth and play it back live. It has scared some people because these are direct recordings. These are not, you got to decipher it. I mean, a lot of these are Class A, which means it doesn't need any manipulation. What it says is very clearly what it says. But I won't go into the big heavy ones only because I want to carry it in my arm. I want it to be mobile, so I don't. Nikki brought up a statement, or actually a question about what she would like to hear. She said, I would love to discuss team dynamics, knowing how to build a good team and be a butthead, but some folks feed off of each other, and then that could be distracting. All right, so let me touch on that, and then Katie, I want you to give your 2 cents because you've got a lot of experience with teams. So here's the thing. I just recently brought on 1, 2, 3 new members to my team, including a new lead investigator. You want to know how that's going to work. You want to know how that chemistry is going to flow before you actually do a public event or you do an actual, very serious investigation. You want to know how that energy is going to flow between you and the whole team. I found the fastest way to do that. Go to dinner together before an investigation. You'll see how the energy plays out during that dinner. You'll see it. Then I will also do something called a shakedown investigation. I will bring them all in. We'll do a small investigation, see how everyone flows. And that kind of before we get into a serious 8, 9, 10, 11 hour investigation, I don't want to do that 12 hours straight with people that just don't get together. And it's very hard because once you get people involved and it doesn't work out, it's very hard to say goodbye to that person, but you've got to, for the good of your team, for the good of, honestly, other spirits in the building, because if they aren't liking the energy flow, they are not going to act up for you. They're not.
Yeah.
I've seen shut down like a closed locked door of a building. Hey, we're not letting you in. We're not involved. We don't want any part of it. I did have a really funny response once. I had somebody that was investigating with us. They wanted us to mentor them going through the right hotel. And I could just tell this was not a good thing. We walked into one room, and I've got a Class A EVP from a gentleman I know in the building. He said, "You're not getting nothing." And I'm like, oh, because she started asking questions.
Hmm.
Class A just went, you're not getting nothing.
It's not you, it's me. Got to break that up real quick.
Yeah, time to go. Yeah, not good.
You're the weakest link.
Yeah, just like goodbye. So
It's been
Brenda
fun.
says, I find sometimes people get so focused on trying all the new equipment that they don't see what's actually going on around. Absolutely great point. Again, equipment's
This
good,
kid,
huh?
I am victim of that. I am that person. I have been that person.
Yeah, I think we all have to a point. But over the years, I know I've gotten to a point where I'll get people gathered together, and we're in this one big section of room, and I'll tell them all, sit down, shut up, don't touch a thing. Just don't touch a device. Close your eyes and feel what's going on around you. That'll tell you more than any device that's lighting up or has a bell on it or whatever, that'll tell you a lot more. But it's very hard for people to do because once you get involved with all this crazy equipment, it gets to a point where they're not really willing to kind of give that up because it's lights and it's bells and it's whistles. I'm not trying to be elementary. I'm not saying they're elementary about it, but it is designed to captivate. And a lot of these programs on the phone, you'll find out if you look at them close enough, they say on there built for entertainment purposes only. So beware of those as well. Just kind of a quick touch. There's so much going through the site right now.
And it's important too when, with your team members, like uh, some of the members of my team, they have their favorite piece of equipment. And, I let it flow with them. If they are, they flow with it. They like that piece of equipment. That's what they want to use. I mean, not they're using all of the equipment, but it works best with them and it messes with them really good. I'm not going to deny that. Okay, awesome. If that's your piece, that's your piece. Everybody kind of knows their job. I have some people that are more proficient in communication. So, setting up cameras and all that stuff, they're a little bit more proficient. So I don't expect every team member to know absolutely how everything works because, you just don't get it sometimes. And for me, there's certain pieces of equipment that I have that some of my investigators know how to use more than I. So some of them are more, they want to be quiet. They want to go and set the equipment up. And some people aren't afraid to, my team members will go and interview the victims, we'll call them, or the people that are experiencing the activity. And so everybody's kind of got their role. And once you get that jive going and once you get that flow happening, sometimes you don't want to change it because it works so well. And at least that's what happens for me and my team.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And Brian brings up a quick point of what his team does. He said, my group, we started putting the raw footage online first before we eventually even put up on our reviewed caught footage. Man. To let everyone help and take a part in the investigation by trying to see evidence in what they've caught, which is great. And that's again another good practice. That's if you put your stuff on the web. I don't do that anymore. I've dealt with too many jack wagons to bother doing it. That's just how I see it. I'm just straight up. You don't know that by now. Tara said, Richard, you mentioned you prefer you use Skullcandy headphones. Do you put it on a computer at all? And if so, what program do you use? Yes and yes. So Skullcandy headphones to me, I'm a cheap ass. So I will spend $15 on Skullcandy earbuds because they are the best I have ever had short of Beats. Their bass response is incredible, which again, when you're dealing with a lower volume, lower decibel level EVP, that bass response will pull it up out of there for you. They're $17 at Walmart all day long. It doesn't matter if they get
American. That's 400 Canadian.
85,000 Canadian. So they also can come with a microphone built in, which is great for tube purpose. You could repurpose it for your phone or whatever, but you can use those as well. It doesn't matter. And the software that I use, yes, I do. I do put them on the computer. And I do use a software called WavePad. WavePad to me has been the best I've had. Audacity, I found, because I'm a nitpicky audio guy, I found that Audacity actually loses some quality of sound value compared to WavePad. WavePad, I think, also works better with mid-range sounds, which you're dealing with a lot on audio and EVP work. But overall, WavePad for me is just incredible. Does a great job of being able to bring me what I want out of the audio. So yes, I do use that as well. Wow, we've got a lot going on. Sorry. No. Uh, got all the great folks in the Paranormal United Network on here too. Appreciate you all coming out.
Thanks,
The
guys.
Paranormal United Network. Okay, yeah, that's great. They're all saying hi to people, which is outstanding.
Yeah.
Uh,
So Robert had said Adobe Edition as well. And Judy had asked, what audio and video editing programs would you two suggest? So you had just mentioned a couple audio. What about visual? What would you recommend for Richard?
I use Power Director, Power Director 13. Any of the
Hmm.
Power Directors that are recent, they are easy to use comparatively.
Hmm.
They allow so many different stages of audio and video editing. They do some really incredible stuff. You can literally save it in whatever format you'd like, whatever best suits you or whatever best suits your site or YouTube, wherever you're sending video from, allows you to produce it in that. I can re-render something from a Windows Media editor to MP4, and that'll do it for me with no problem at all. For example, the intro that you see here for our show and the outro at the end of the show, that was all done, had to be an MPEG-4, had to be an MP4 because you could not use any formatted media for this. So I had to convert what I had, which was in Windows Media file, to MPEG-4. Power Director does that. It's actually a pretty inexpensive program. Comes with free updates all the time. What do you use, Katie?
Same thing, Power Director. So you actually got me onto that. I was using another program before, and I'm embarrassed to say
Okay.
I can't remember what it's called. I was using Audacity as well for a little while, and then I got another program, and I use that as well. But Power Director for me for video is kind of what I've been using now, and I find that it works the best. As you said, it's user friendly. It's something that is quick and easy, and it doesn't. I find it's not slow in rendering your stuff. So as you want to change things, it renders rather quickly, which is really good because the last thing you want to do after you have watched hours of audio is do hours of editing to try and get it to upload, and you're sitting there watching paint dry.
Yeah. Well, Jane said that your Nana says you look beautiful, Katie. Do you hear that?
No, I didn't. I lost you for a minute there.
That's okay. Jane says your Nana tells you that you look beautiful,
Aw,
Katie.
thank you,
So
Nan.
there we
I
go.
appreciate that.
So here's another one now. What's your feeling? This is a good question. What's your feeling on assigning certain roles based on your comfort levels? I thrive on order and discipline, or I thrive on order and some don't. Finding common ground can be hard. Yes. For example, I've got three brand new people. One has 7 or 8 years worth of experience in investigating. The other two, the one has about 6 months. He was my production assistant on our show that he decided he wanted to get into it. The third person, or the last two people I have, zero experience as an investigator. So you want to give them some basic equipment to start working with. That way they don't get too lost in the weeds about what that piece of equipment does. They can learn it quick. Okay. And yes, I do grant people certain roles because you kind of need to. And I'm a control freak.
Really? No. You're
Yeah,
just have
really.
order. Something that else is that is important. If somebody approaches me and I don't know them from Adam, if they just moved to town, they love the paranormal, they've done this, and this, I want them to come with references. That's the first thing. And secondly, I get a police background check done. So if I don't know you, if I don't know, if I don't know where you live, if I don't know, police background check. I think it's important. We are entering people's homes. We are entering people's private lives. And, I would hate to be put in a situation where, somebody is not as they seem, and we're kind of all in hot water because of it. So that's how serious I take it. Agreed with Richard by letting them come in and feel the different equipment to see what they're comfortable with. And if people want to bring their own equipment as well, I mean, we don't have some of my investigators bring their equipment, and that's cool. That's more
Yeah.
power to you. That's what it's great. Is it important to know how the equipment works? Yeah, absolutely it is. I think we go through practice runs and talk about it. But as I said, there are investigators that have their favorite pieces. So, why change that up?
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Now, Robert
You know?
says Adobe Premiere Pro is a good program as well.
Cool.
My only problem with the Adobe products is they're so freaking expensive, and I again am a cheap ass.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, and Tara's like, yeah, order versus chaos, absolutely, because it is kind of, and God, I hate saying this, but it has got to be a hierarchy as well. You've got to have a hierarchy. Like I have a lead investigator. So if I'm in that room, you're going to go to that lead investigator if you got a question. Okay. And again, I have a person right below the lead investigator that has some experience, about 8-9 months worth of investigative experience. That would be the next one down. So there has to be a hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
If not, there'd be too many chiefs and not enough Indians. They used to be the same. And that's just the truth. It's absolutely the truth. When you go into buying equipment, forgive me while I disappear on you for a second. You've got things like this. It's by Paranologies.com. It is a periscope. I would love this booger. I think I had one of the original ones from like 11 years ago when he used to build these. It's a static filtration device. So spirits give off static electricity to a higher level than even humans do on the daily. So when you get to a point, I don't know if it's going to go off with me or not. We'll see. Probably not. I'm not putting off enough electricity. It'll come up with different colors: red to green, yellow, orange, and it'll go. You'll find as the spirit moves, for example, the color will follow it. So it's kind of a neat product. It is, I think it's $90 now or $99, depending upon where you get it. If you go directly to Paranologies.com, I think they're a little cheaper. But that again is something that you have to kind of look into for yourself. I will show you another piece. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not. Hopefully you will. There is a less expensive product than a millimeter. See that little bugger right there? Yep. It does temperature, does milligauss, has a backlight, and it's all of $22 off of Amazon. $22. I'm a cheap ass. I don't know if you've heard that yet. I'm a cheap ass. So this to me is $22. Battery indicator. It does have an alarm if it goes above 15 milligauss. It will sound an audible alarm and turn the screen red. I've had it happen many, many times at a place that you probably never heard me say, the Ride Hotel. Those are some of the things you can get into. It's basic stuff. I'm a big proponent, if you haven't found out yet, I'm a big proponent of saving money. I am. But I want to show off one more piece of equipment that wasn't saving money. If you all watch Destination Fear, the paranormal music box.
Let me tell you something, Richard. Let me interject for 1 second. If I'm walking into a location and I walk into a room and that bad boy starts playing, you better know Jesus walked on water. Katie isn't going to be touching any steps on the way down. I'll tell you that right now.
I have had this go off. I was in a location called Octagon Hall. Mm-hmm. And Octagon Hall is in Franklin, Kentucky. Now, I had this thing sitting on a dining room table. That was, for us, command central. And I had it pointing towards this direction where the living room was. Sitting there, I think we were actually just trying to get stuff together. And as it will happen when you're just getting stuff together to begin investigating, stuff hits the fan. There's no, start and stop time, really. Sitting here putting equipment together, and this thing just goes off. And on command, I said, all right, now move away from it so it doesn't go off. And on command, it did. All right, can you move back in focus of it again and get to that light? On command, it did. That is the creepiest noise
Yep.
that you ever hear in the dark.
Noted.
Just saying.
Good Lord. Okay, so Richard had mentioned EMF meters. So EMF meters. So to dial it back a little bit for those of you that don't know, EMF, electromagnetic field, okay? Those types of meters, EMF was not created with spirits, okay? So a lot of people think, oh, EMF, spirits, they equate it to the same thing. No. EMF is kind of remnants of energy. It's remnants of electrical hydro wires, your refrigerator, television. We all give off a little bit of EMF, but it's spirits that kind of feed off of that and recharge their batteries. So there are devices, as Richard had showed. I don't think that's a basic, I want to say basic, but that was not designed for paranormal activity. That was designed for EMF and for temperature, correct?
Yeah, electricity, leakage, things like that.
Right. So something like this. So this is, as Richard had, now I beefed it up a bit. I beef up all my equipment. This is an L-meter. So this was specifically designed for paranormal investigating. Does not mean it works any better. Just that the gentleman who developed the Bell meter, named it after his daughter who had passed away. And so he kind of devoted his time for EMF. If you're looking for millimeters and such, you don't have to spend the money, as Richard said. Now, I invested some money and time in this. It was quite expensive when I purchased it. I did get the upgrade, and the reason I did get the upgrade was because I wanted to be able to use this as a REM pod as well. So it not only does it give off temperature and EMF, but it also does a temperature sensor, okay, so the temperature change, as well as your breaking electromagnetic fields. Okay, so it sets it off and you break it that way. So I invested in this instead of another REM pod because I felt I could leave this on camera if I left the room, hoping that if something was to break that field or encompass that field, that I would be able to capture it. Here's another type of EMF meter. Oh, now I'm making it go off here. This is another type of EMF meter. Let me shut this off. It is called the K2. There are false K2 meters out there. So it is important that you do your research and get the correct ones when you're doing it. Now, this one is not audible, but one of my team members has one that sounds off pitch when the vibration changes or the EMF changes. These are really great too. As Richard said, this will light up. Now, it's going off because I've got all my electronics around me, but this will light up and you can ask for them to light them up on command. So something like this really works because if they can't make a physical audible sound through EVP, they may be able to change the energy and manipulate this to give you an answer.
Yeah. Now, Brian brings up another pro tip. He says, have liability insurance. I will tell you honestly, I don't. I sign waivers for liability with everybody I'm with, so I don't have to have liability insurance. But I do have people, my teammates do sign liability waivers. My teammates also, pro tip too, they also sign image releases. And I will tell you that the location owner, albeit a homeowner or a business building, they will sign a location release saying that I can put up audio and video of this particular location, and you're giving me permission to do that. Now, there is a website that I've got to find it, and I'll put it up. There was a website that had all of this, including interview questions and all of that I think you were going to show a copy of the interview questions that you guys do.
So, this is one that we use. It's got our kind of team stuff on it. And we go through, location, auditory events, physical events, visual events, emotional events. So we go through and kind of cross all that stuff off. It goes on to saying, pet information, what pets are at the location. Is there any dangerous things? The background, the historical data, the property background. Now, we don't just go by this. We will do our research, but we want to know what the occupants of the location know about the location as well. So we kind of figure that stuff out. And then, we talk about, again, at the end of it, We have who's doing the interview, who is at the location for the investigation, the assigned investigators, the equipment, and the overall plan that we talk about going over it. And then, as Richard said, we have confidentiality agreements, we have public release of information agreements, we have identification. I can't say that word, to indemnify them. We have a lot of things that stipulates what we're going into the location, what's to be expected, and what each person should be expecting versus the investigators to the occupants. One thing that we have had a hard time here in Ontario anyways is getting liability insurance. I used to work for an insurance company, and it's very hard. So they don't have the same types of things up here. To get liability, we do have waivers, and as Richard said, it's always signed before.
Yeah. Now, Tara brings up a good point. She said, professional responsibility question. If you encounter a spirit, say a child, who is unaware that they have passed on, are you morally obligated to help them to move on? If so, should you attempt it? Let me tell you, there's several sensitivity points to that. Number one, how sure are you that it's really a kid? You got to be careful of that. If you don't have a psychic meeting that's able to verify that, I wouldn't do it. Number one. Number two, I have done it at a public location because the child was repeatedly being attacked sexually. So yes, I helped move that spirit on, and then basically told the property owner afterwards, hey, I had to do this. He got a little upset, but he understood, but I would not do it without the permission of the location owner. Because again, I hate saying it, a lot of these places like to keep their spirits kind of at bay. I call it prison to a point, and I know it's a little sensitive to say, but yeah, you have an obligation to help every spirit. Child spirits are just, for me, I just think we all have to be a little bit more leery of it actually being a child, because it may want, whatever attention you're liable to try to give it, and it's actually an adult spirit that just wants to crave your energy and wants to, it wants to do things for nefarious reasons. So you really got to be careful that it's a child. That's just kind of my fine point on that. You have anything you want to say about that?
Yes, I agreed. I think that, it's important. You got to make sure you know what you're getting into. If you know if it's a known negative place, if it's a known prison, walking with a child, is it really going to be a child? There's certain circumstances that kind of present red flags. If the event that, there was a tragic car accident and children died, or there was a house fire, or there was some sort of event that a child's death did occur, it's intimidating to walk in. It's one thing to be, in spirit for 50 years and they don't know the electronic equipment, but it's another thing to be afraid of the adults, right? We've always taught our children not to talk to strangers. So you want to come with a welcoming attitude. You want to bring something to them, whether it be a child's toy or something inviting. And I do find that a lot of times in investigations, children approach women first. So if it's a strong male team, don't be afraid to bring a woman in. And that's not saying that they can do it better, but it's just, I find that children kind of approach it softly. And sometimes, there's one specific person they have in mind. It's not always the same that this child, it reminds, one of the investigators or people attending reminds them of someone. So once you can get onto that and kind of earn their trust a little bit, communication tends to be a lot better. Another thing, we had talked about the Melmeter and using it as a REM pod, right? So this is just quickly a REM pod, and we're going to get into them a little bit more. I beefed this one up with a little bit more antenna. Because I like to leave these. So basically what this does is the same thing as the Melmeter in the sense that when you get up close to it, it will sound. I'm not going to turn it on because it's loud. It also has a temperature sensor for this one. So I like to leave this, plunk this down in a room if we have a large location. I encourage everybody, if you're going to do it, get a tripod. Don't put it on the floor. Sometimes vibration through walking through locations can actually set this off and give you a false reading. So it's a little bit better if it's off the floor, okay? Don't be afraid to leave a trigger object around it. If you want to leave a ball, if you want to leave a child's toy, if you want to leave something there, sometimes that will help to have it go. And I found that something like that, it's good to plunk and leave. They're less likely to come into that and want to communicate through that rather than kind of walk by it and let it go off.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Tracy had a question. What is a harbinger? All right. So let me give you my trucker version that I'm sure my partner will have a lot more eloquent version to share with you. All right. So harbinger angel, I've had experience with this. People do call them harbinger angels. They are actually the spirits. And I'll tell you a classic example. I had a lady that had a 2-year-old. The bedroom was upstairs for the child. Somehow the child got out of the crib. And this lady has had encounters where things would happen for odd reasons. And she was in the kitchen cooking something. The child was going to the top of the steps. This spirit was flipping frames and pictures so that it would hit the stairs. So the mom would go, "What?" and come flying around a corner. Same thing with the child as well, going into the kitchen, reaching up to the stove. She said the fire alarm went off for no reason in the kitchen. There you go. And my point to that is simple. My ideal of a harbinger angel is a spirit that really just wants to help support the family or support a situation positively. I've never had a bad experience with a harbinger. A lot of the times, just to be frank, the times I have dealt with them, a lot of the times it was ladies who could never be a parent. They're so maternal. They wanted that maternal instinct to drive through and have a child, just couldn't for whatever reason. So now they're with that family trying to help do what a grandmother or a nana, whatever that grandmother figure would have done, to protect the child. I've had conversation with one that said she didn't like what the husband watched on television, didn't think it was suitable for the kids. It took me about 5 minutes to get it all out in an EVP. She just didn't like the TV he was watching for the kids. So that's kind of what my take is in the harbinger. Do you have a different point to it? Or do you have...
Agreed. So the basic definition of a harbinger is basically somebody alarming. So somebody getting attention for somebody else. So, going, ooh, hello, pay attention to this, doing the warning. Guys, have you ever put your keys down and sworn you left them somewhere before you walked out the door? Have you ever, been looking for your glasses or been looking for something that you know for a fact you set down or they were always in the same place and they're just not there? Or the car just won't start. A lot of times that's a spiritual phenomena happening. And what they're doing is they're protecting you, whether it's a harbinger angel, whether it's a strong loved one trying to protect you, or whether it's your guide. They're trying to delay, or they're trying to get you to pay attention to something. So I oftentimes, when I've had a death for somebody that I know, my fire alarms will go off. And no rhyme or reason. I'm touching door handles. I'm jumping up in the middle of the night, figuring out what's going on. It's not CO2. It's not humidity. Then I find out the next day that there's been a death. So pay attention to that. Sometimes there's subtle hints, but they are there. And it's important. Don't get frustrated if you're not being able to find these things. Thank whoever is trying to hold them off so that they're delaying you to get out on that road or to get into that situation that you potentially could be getting hurt or killed in.
This is so much. I'm trying to sift through everything that's...
It's okay. So quickly, while Richard's going through that stuff, some other pieces of equipment. Now, this has been featured. I have a couple of these. You do not have to have one specifically, this brand, okay? This is called an SB7 Spirit Box. It's ITC research, so telecommunications, in other words, communications with the other side. Basically what this does is I call it a telephone for the other side. And I use it with the headphones. I have one that I've actually made into a portal box that removes background noise, removes that white sound that you're hearing. And basically what this does is it streams through radio frequencies really, really quickly. And through those radio frequencies, entities are able to come through and have conversations. This is a controversial piece of equipment. There are a lot of investigators out there that don't agree with this or can't handle it. Understandably so. Sometimes when you're going through the information, it doesn't sound like it's making any noise or making any sound or making any sense until you play it back and clean it up. So something like this I do use, but I would never take one piece of an equipment and consider something haunted because I had something come through it. So we use these in conjunction with the rest of the equipment to try to gain the evidence we need to say it's haunted. Now, for those of you tuning in for the first time, I am a psychic medium, so it is a little bit different from me. My team kind of will know the background, or we'll all go in blind in the sense because I don't want to know what is happening. So I'll get the basic information, I'll do my psychic walkthrough first, and then I turn into the investigator and utilize the equipment.
We have so many people having their own conversations in the chat room as well.
That is so cool. That
It's
is so awesome.
amazing. So happy for you guys, and we're
Okay,
glad
so
you're
we
having
got
that kind
Tracy.
of interaction with each other. It's really kind of,
Yeah.
it supports everything we've meant to be doing with this.
Mm-hmm.
But there are just so many things. All right. So, I kind of want to step through to a part that I don't think has been discussed yet. Maybe I'm wrong. I am old. You never know. So, to me, it is one of those kind of things where I want to have people on my team utilizing different equipment. So that way they can go ahead and capture different evidence instead of everybody doing one thing. We're all capturing evidence a different way, confirming evidence, confirming activity. I always will operate with at least 2 recorders. I have 3. Every member of my team, as many as I can give out, I will give out for them to use. Because there has been times that I've seen it, as I'm sure you have. They'll come to one recorder and make some kind of a distinctive message and won't go to another. It's just really odd how that happens, but it happens. So, I always have at least 3 recorders with me to be able to distinguish, where that activity came from. Plus, again, everybody uses a different piece of equipment, so we're able to actually confirm what's going on with other pieces of equipment. And instead of everybody using a millimeter, there's millimeters, static filtration devices, and I've been known to put a static filtration device right next to a millimeter, and again, they will touch whatever one they want when they want it. So, that's just another thought. I call it aces in your places, right? So if you have somebody using this piece of equipment, somebody using that piece of equipment, they're in tune with what's going on with that equipment. It's a lot easier to capture different stuff. That's just one of the steps to it. I always thought. Also, real quick, bring some snacks. Bring some drinks, some snacks, not alcohol. Don't bring
No alcohol.
no wine. No wine. Yeah, I mean, to me, and also too, before we get too far into this, because we've only got a holy mackerel, we have less than a half an hour left.
I know. Wow.
And also what I would tell you too, guys, I'm also a psychic medium, so I've experienced this with my team. Take a break, step out of the building. I don't care how cold it is. Separate yourself from the activity to be able to reset yourself before you go back in. A lot of times overexposure to the paranormal is detrimental to you. So yeah, my team and I will go in and we'll go and investigate for a couple, 3 hours. Step outside, or step into a different place in the building, or just all come together in a casual atmosphere to break our mind away from what we're absorbing. Then you can go back to it again. But yeah, I highly recommend breaks. I do it with the events. Every one of the events that we have, there will be a break. That is how it works. Sometimes much to the chagrin of the event goers, but you know what? It's just a way to be able to keep safe. Just to be able to keep safe. Does anyone have any questions regarding investigating a building or anything else at all while we have the time left to be able to go through this?
Yeah. So I'll kind of, while you're looking through the questions. So usually what happens when I set up my team, and everybody is a little bit different, but usually we'll get the reconnaissance, we'll do we'll get the information, we'll get the historical stuff, we'll walk into it. Sometimes we will, depending on the situation, not be able to get a lot of the historical stuff or try to make sense of the evidence we've captured. We'll do the historical stuff after. You don't necessarily have to do it before, but walking and knowing what you're getting into. If you're walking into the 1918 battle, you don't want to, or 1819, whatever, I'm making it up, some war zone, you don't want to be bringing hard rock band coming in and thinking that it's going to be a good thing, right? Because they're not going to understand that stuff. So it's important to kind of know what you're getting into. If you have to do the history after, that's okay too. So basically what we do is we do our interviews, we do our background checks, find out what's happening with the location. We will set the equipment up. Usually that takes a hell of a lot longer than it does to tear it down, but we'll have different members putting up different cameras, doing the walkthrough, doing a EMF sweep to find out where the EMF is occurring. So, where there's a lot of electricity going through, whether there's, a furnace happening, because not everything is paranormal. Sometimes too high levels of EMF could be causing paranoia, hallucinations, and those things. So before you've even set up, you've determined what you think is causing this stuff. Once you've done your equipment set up and you've got the forms signed and everybody knows where they're going, and then depending on how many people are there, we will either break up into mini teams and into couples, and they'll investigate different areas, or we'll all go together and we will take turns and we will go to different rooms. We usually hit the hot spots first. I usually go where I'm told to go. So, it's a magnetic field that I feel. So I will pick up the energy and it'll draw me to different places like a magnet, and we'll hit those places. After we do the investigation, which can take a couple hours to, several hours, we do the teardown. One pro tip: don't shut your cameras off and your audio off until you absolutely have to. Lots of times, one of my lead investigators will leave the recorder as we're leaving the location. She'll turn it off halfway home because we're still picking up stuff to and from. So she'll turn it on before we get there, and she'll turn it off halfway home, or even, when we roll into the driveway type thing. So, sometimes you're getting really good evidence that way. It's not just necessarily at the location. Once we do the teardown, we will talk to the client. We will either, reference a cleansing. We will either do a cleansing. We will kind of live them with a script of what we think should happen. And then depending on the situation, may have to go back to cleanse multiple times, or sometimes once the client finds out that it's just Aunt May just wanted to say hello, she's been trying to get your attention, she's really not trying to hurt you, she just wants you to know she's there, then most of the time our clients will say, hey, I don't want her to go anyway. So all is well. Once they know what it is, then they're more comfortable. And it's at that point that we'll go back, we'll listen to the equipment, go over the evidence, and if we have anything to present, we'll go back and we'll present it to the clients. I encourage people that when you're doing an investigation, don't be afraid to go multiple times. It's something that you need to build a rapport with. You need to build this relationship, and you will get better evidence, to me, the more times you go. So there's more communication. So don't be afraid to hit it a couple times if you can.
Right. Absolutely. Build up a history with it, build up a reputation with it. Tara asked a question. It's a bit off topic, she said, but do you use equipment when you're doing divination or what? No, I don't. I don't want anything interfering with my connection to spirit. And equipment does. I mean, I may audio record the session, but that's it. I mean, we've captured EVPs here in this show. Just in communication with you guys. We have caught EVPs. I don't know who the lady was, but she said, hey, babe. Like, I'm assuming she's talking to me. I would like to think she is. We haven't gone on a date or anything, but, it's there. Just kidding. Little joke. But, yeah, I mean, we've had it. You just got to be sure. You don't want anything interfering with it. If I'm sitting back trying to read someone, I don't want anything interfering with me. I just don't. I mean, I'll turn the TV off, set my phone down, put it on speaker, and I'll just talk to the person I'm talking with, whatever. I don't want anything interfering with it, so no, we don't. Let's see, developing a game plan for when things go wrong. Oh, I've had things
go wrong. Good one. Contingency plan. Yep. And a contingency for a contingency plan. When plan B doesn't work, you go to plan C.
Yeah, and there are times you just got to step away. There are times you just got to say, ooh, yeah, we need to go ahead and say goodnight. Mm-hmm. We thank you for your, we thank you for your participation. We gone. Thank you very much. And it's not that things get out of hand, because I've seen a lot of things get out of hand. It's not that they just get out of hand and, you bail. It's that they get out of hand and it's gotten either violent or it's gotten sincerely aggressive. Nobody really needs to play that crap. Don't be a hero, all right? Don't be the paranormal hero. There are times when sometimes you gotta know when to hold them, know when to fold them. That's just the way I see it, and there's no shame in it. Okay, when a situation gets like that, where things get out of hand, people freak. The worst thing I've ever had happen to me was I had teammates freak and lose it during the investigation because something traumatic happened to them. Okay, that'll throw off the entire team. That'll throw off all the energy in the building. And then again, that's just another time when you just got to go, yeah, maybe we just need to go home. Maybe this just wasn't for us tonight. And you do that. And it's smart to do that. Again, there's no shame at all in saying, yeah, we need to get and call it a night. There really isn't. Somebody talked about the paranormal hangover. Let me give you a little trick of what I do to kind of help myself get beyond that. I'll go ahead and pre-med myself. I'll go ahead and take myself some ibuprofen before I begin the investigation. That'll lower your inflammatory issues about having your energy absorbed. That feeling like you got beat up with a baseball bat the next day, that'll help you even during the investigation, because I know they like to come at my energy and sap me dry. And in the process, inflammation happens. So I would tell you now, take some ibuprofen, just like you had a headache or a muscle ache. Take some ibuprofen before you begin. You'll be surprised how that'll help you. Trust me. You're still going to have something of the paranormal hangover, but you're just not going to have as bad a trip with getting beat up as some people have. Okay, so
make sure that when you are, maybe you touch base on this a little bit, Richard, but if you're not feeling good, if you feel like your immune system, if you're just getting over something, or if you're feeling physically ill, not a good idea. Sometimes they feed off of that. They can read you like a book, and they know in a lot of cases if you're suffering. It's important that each of you watch each other, keep an eye on each other, because again, as we've mentioned 100 times before, when paranormal activity happens, when attachments happen, when negative energy happens, it's not necessarily like TV always stipulates that it jumps out and says, boo, I'm here. Sometimes you don't even know it. And so it's so important to keep an eye on each other and know your personalities away from the investigation, because if that personality starts to change, if you're starting to have mood swings or you're kind of going out of coherence, you have to know. Another thing that I do with my team, another pro tip, know your allergies. Does anybody suffer from allergies? Does anybody suffer from any heart conditions? Does anybody suffer from asthma? Does anybody suffer from epilepsy? Any of those things, it's important. Not only is it important to keep yourself physically safe during the investigation. In other words, know where your floorboards are, know where the structural integrity is, the location. But it's important to know how you could react to these things. If somebody has a high allergy, or if somebody suffers from epilepsy and something could trigger this, you're using equipment that has lasers. You're using equipment that could typically cause a reaction. So it's important to know those things. I'm not saying don't invite them along or don't allow them on the team, but just know how you can work around it so that everybody's safe while they're doing their investigations.
Yeah. Now, Judy asks, on average, how much time do you allow for the entire process? Walkthrough, research, investigation, review, reveal. I'll give you one very direct answer. Depends on how big the place is. Because I've done places I could be in and out in the investigation in 5 hours, only because it's not any place I want to drop 11 to 12 hours on. There's no need for it. So I won't. So for me, it really just depends on how big a venue it's going to take for me to do the walkthrough, how big a venue denotes the process of research, what happened here. This is going to be a lot different when it's a hospital versus a house. So for me, it's really just comes down to how big is the venue. Because I've done it anywhere with that kind of absolutely encapsulated frame of work. It could take anywhere from 13 to 25 hours, depending on what you're doing. I would say it depends on the size of the actual venue.
And don't be afraid to break it up. I mean, if you're at a big facility like a hospital or a prison, you may have to go multiple nights in order to get that whole thing done. Don't try and spend, I always say go with the flow. You can allocate certain amount of times, 15 minutes per room or whatever, but really go with the flow. If you're getting really good evidence, if you're getting good communication, why do you want to change the room? Why do you want to go to a different location? I find that, and Richard has talked about this as well, that it's kind of cyclical. In other words, the energy comes and then it goes, and it comes and it goes. And so follow the energy. If you're getting strong, hits, stay there. When you feel it's starting to die off, don't be afraid to move on to the next location. And I find too, if you're breaking up in teams, try to go to opposite sides of the building. If you have a 2-story house, One half goes to the basement, the other half goes to the second floor, so you're not contaminating evidence. There's nothing worse than somebody, letting something off, a motion sensor off, when they don't know it's, necessarily there. They're focused on what they're doing, and it's contaminating your part of the investigation. So it's important to know where the equipment is. It's important to know where it's being used, who's using it, and where each person is. We have walkie-talkies. So when we're setting up equipment, we're kind of chiming in and out to the investigators of where we're going to be. If we're breaking it up, we'll chime up and say, hey, we're coming up the stairs now. So that if somebody is doing an EVP session, or we have these audio recorders going, or there's a videotape going, night vision camera going static, we know that that was not paranormal. We know it's steps. I ask every one of my team members, as well as any of the people that occupy the location when they investigate with us, don't whisper. I don't care if you want to talk loud. Talk loud, that's fine, but please don't whisper, because a lot of the EVPs that we capture comes across as a whisper. So it's important, again, cross-contamination. I get asked whether investigating at night is a necessity, and it isn't. My experience investigating at night is not a necessity. You don't have to. There's no haunted hours, okay? However, when you investigate at night, there's less cross-contamination for lights, cars going by, birds going through the windows, like by the windows, shadows, sun pitching, lens flare, all of that. Not only does it, on a visual basis, does it change, but also it's quieter at night. So if you're in a suburban area and there's lots of vehicles traveling back and forth, you're going to be picking that up, and you're not going to be able to capture the EVPs like you think you should be able to. When it's quiet, and if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and the traffic is lower, you may be able to pick up a little bit more. So it's not as if it's the hour that makes a difference, it's how quiet. If you're in the middle of nowhere and you want to go during the day, go. There's nothing saying you can't.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. Alex, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by this, the old psychic drive. I'm hoping your impression of that is not, do we close our eyes and let spirit guide us? Because I won't do that. But I mean, what I do, what I think you might be talking about is, I do let spirit guide me through the venue of where I'm going to go to walk through and investigate first. So I think that's what you're talking about, but I'm not sure. And then, to Dawn's point, the fear cage effect, when you're doing your safety walk, somebody should always have a millimeter. That way you can always tell when you do a baseline at the same time you're doing a walkthrough. And your baseline will tell you if you do have a fear cage, where basically a fear cage is where a person is absolutely surrounded by electromagnetic field, wiring through the wall, TV over here, air conditioner over here, fan over here. You're surrounded by electromagnetic field that way. That's called the fear cage. People have had nausea, confusion, headaches. There's a lot of things that come along with that. And no offense, illusions of paranormal also a part of that. Okay. Brian says, you two are freaking awesome. Thank you, Brian. Checks in the mail.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it,
buddy.
much.
We'll pay you later. So while you're looking at more questions, another piece of equipment will show up. So this, I think it's pretty obvious, don't you? This is an Ovilus 4, and what this does is it holds a database of a few thousand words, okay? And I don't want to call it an algorithm, but it's stipulated, okay, and again, this is another controversial piece of equipment, but it's stipulated that the entities can manipulate it so that they can bring up words. So I'll give you an example. So it comes into the screen, you may be able to hear. Yours. Okay, so it says William and yours. So ironically enough, my son, his name is William. So it's as accurate as that can be. Sometimes it makes absolutely no sense. Sometimes we have to approach it after the investigation and put all the words together to make it make sense. Okay, but that's literally what we do, is we turn it on. Now there's other things that this device does, but this is what we predominantly use it for. Would I go around a whole location just using something like this? No, I would not. I like to conjunct all my equipment and kind of come to a conclusion through that on an equipment basis. Okay, something like this is pretty great because, again, if they can't manipulate an EVP or manipulate a light, they can usually make this thing work. And so one of my investigators, Liz, this is her favorite piece of equipment, and it works the best for her. If I hold it, it doesn't work as well as it does for her. So, you know, this is something. Now, this was a pricey piece. This was about $400. A lot of this equipment was quite pricey, and it's whether you want to use it or not. I was willing to kind of spend the money because I wanted to experiment with it. And if it's something you want to do, by all means, look into it, make sure it's legit, and make your purchase.
Now, I want to say, we've had so many people commenting. Glad to have you all, guys. Danny, good to see you. We're running out of time, and
we are.
Know, I really didn't think when we used to do this show in the beginning, and we did it for an hour, that we'd actually would get an hour and a half's worth of stuff out of this. Now, one of the few questions, Ellen says, is anyone aware organized when investigating the help with EMF, microwaves, and etc.?
You can. Yeah, you can. Or Sugite. Do I have some sugar? Oh, I got a little piece right here. Right here. This helps. Kind of looks like hematite. Very similar. This helps to break up EMF, so it's really good. Okay. Now, another kind of, I hate the word pro tip, but another cool tip about this stuff, guys, when you're using any types of equipment during the investigation, make sure that your cell phones are on airplane mode, or make sure that they're away. Anything that could give off a charge like that or ping any antennas, any radios, anything like that, because it can affect your equipment. So if you got your phone in your pocket and you're using, a K2 meter or a millimeter, you're going to be getting a range of it. You're going to be getting, there are natural levels of EMF, but you're going to be getting a raise in that. And sometimes that may be alarming, thinking you're getting a hit, and really it's not happening. So I tell all my investigators, either put your phones away, put them in a back pocket, don't allow them around you. And then when we do get a hit of this stuff, we'll kind of experiment with it, and we'll bring their phones close and far, and to see where it's kind of what's being affected by it. Another big tip, bring lots and lots of batteries. Okay, batteries galore, as many batteries, because lots of times spirits will use the batteries to manifest. They'll use them to bring themselves up to be able to communicate with you. And so we go through, I should have invested in stock and batteries, I'll tell you that right now, because we go through a lot.
We do. I'm going to try to see if we can get to these next few questions before we run out of time.
Sure.
Cliff said, the question is do you open, I'm assuming to others, is what he meant by that. Well, we do when we're reading someone. I tend not to open up to others. Really, they're kind of, the ones that are wide open half the time, and I got to tell them to calm down. But, it's just one of those kind of things that, you have to be open to be able to read someone or be able to help someone. Or else you won't be able to allow spirit in and be able to get the definitive answers that you need for that person so they get closure. Then we have Catherine says, how do you know if a piece of equipment is legit? Again, it's a lot of devices are designated for electromagnetic field. A lot of devices are designated for static. A lot of them are designated, the ITC device at, the Ovilus, that is designed to be able to have spirit manipulate the field around it to be able to designate the words that come up on that. If there's sensible answers, then you gotta have a little faith in it. A lot of the phone apps I don't. That's just kind of it. I've got a lot of custom manufacturers. You saw the Paranormal Music Box, that's custom. The Periscope is made by a custom manufacturer. A lot of these are, and the easiest way to test them is simply put them in an arena where they will go off, near a phone. If it's an EMF detector, you're going to want to put it near a phone. Static filtration, usually is rubbing your hand in front of it. We'll get it to go off as well. So there's just a lot of ways to test it out. Is there a preferred manufacturer?
Yes, no. So it's important. Do your research. I wouldn't say there's a preferred manufacturer. Just make sure that it's legit. If it's, let me put it to you this way. If it's on sale for $100 cheaper, $300 cheaper, you get what you pay for. So make sure, number one, you're not getting scammed, and number two, that it's a reputable source coming through. Each piece of equipment I got, I wanted to make sure that I was getting what I was buying. There are a few online stores that you can go to. There is one, we call it GoStop.com, and I'm referencing them only because I have purchased a few pieces of equipment very successfully with them, and it turned out to work out really great. So there are many different ones. Just do your research. We can, if you guys are interested in purchasing, there's a lot more that we can push, we can let you know about. So yeah, somebody had asked earlier about psychic mediums reading other psychic mediums, and I apologize, guys. The comments are going so quick I can't keep up.
Yeah.
Yes. So psychic mediums, there's no wall that says you can't read. Now, some people put walls up. I personally and morally, ethically, don't just read somebody. Now, let me tell you something. If you're going to be with my kids, you're darn right I'm going to be reading you. I'm going to know ins and outs. But I don't, when I go to the grocery store, I don't take it upon myself to read somebody. I don't infiltrate. I like to ask permission. So when going into a haunted location, it's a little different as a medium going in and communicating with the spirits there. As a psychic medium going into, with somebody who has hired me to do a reading for them, they've given me their permission to read. I don't just walk up to someone. Now, sometimes there are messages for others, and if I feel it is important enough, sometimes I'm working with the police, or if there's been some sort of, murder or accident or some sort of a crime investigation that I've been working with, then yes, I will reach out. But I have to go to the proper authorities, the proper chain of command in order to do so. It's like, and it's same with confidentiality. We don't, I'm not going to name names. When somebody comes to me for a reading, number one, I forget what has been stipulated after the reading. It's not my information to keep. I don't remember these things. And number two, it's not my place to say anything. So, it's almost like a doctor confidentiality agreement where you don't go over that. And it's really important to be able to have that.
It is. We're out of time. We've got 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes left. It's amazing how quickly this just goes bye-bye. Guys, we're so thankful for your involvement with the show. And again, I will tell you, we've got a lot of new viewers on here. I wanted to say, please like and share this show. Please share it with your friends.
If you like it.
Yeah, if you like it. If not, I understand. We understand. But, for those that share the show and like the show, we thank you very much for that. But, wow, we blew through an hour and a half.
Time flies when you're having fun, Richard. When we're with our favorite people, I get so excited about Sunday nights.
Oh, I do too. It's kind of funny. Kitty and I talk, briefly, but hey, what do you want to talk about this week? This, that, and the other. I would really, I know Kitty would as well. We would love to hear ideas from you guys. I'm not trying to Mike Rowe this thing, but I'm Mike Rowing it. There's something that you've not heard us speak about, or something you want to talk about. Send us a message. The show has its own Facebook page. Let's talk about it. It's on Facebook. You can send us suggestions there. If you're friends with us, you can toss them that way as well. We'd love to be able to hear from you about it. We just get really busy with this, and we're really appreciative to every single one of you that come out. We've had a lot of new folks come out, and we're really thankful for you to show up. And we hope to see you again next week. That to us is what this whole thing is about, is networking with our friends and fans on the show. So, we got a lot.
And just so that you, our new viewers, so we do have guests that come on the show every once in a while when people are so busy these days, and so we do have some guests that will be attending. I can't give you dates yet. Once we can hunker down the dates, they're quite busy as well. We're going to be having more people on, so every once in a while we don't commit to every week having a guest, but we do like to change it up a little bit and gain some knowledge from some outsiders, right, Richard?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we've had some really wonderful people there. Bishop James Long, Tim Shaw. Shane from Holzer Files, Jeremy Leonard. We've had some really incredible people on here, and we're very
Richard Valdez.
Yeah,
Richard Valdez. Yep.
We've just had a bunch of really great people on here, and we try our best. But this is a silly time of the year, and a lot of people are very, very busy with us. So it's a little hard for us to be able to get people to commit, but we're working on it.
John.
We're working on it.
Thanks, Danny.
We do appreciate you all very, very much. And we're going to sign off here.
Bear, too. We can't forget about Bear. Can't forget about Bear. They were awesome, too.
Yeah, Bear and
Billy. Oh, yeah.
All
of our guests have been awesome.
Into the fire. Yeah, I love doing that. It isn't as screwed up as what you did to my voice in the beginning of the show intro, at the end of the show intro. But, yeah, that demonic voice is mine. That's Katie's fault. It's not anybody else's but Katie's. But folks, we do appreciate y'all so very much. We sincerely do, and we really hope to see you next week. If you like comments, you like to comment, please go ahead. Something you did like about the show, we'd love to hear that too. Something you didn't like, we'd love to hear that as well. But at this time, we're going to go ahead and say goodnight to you. We wish you all the best. Please be kind to one another, and we'll see you next week. Bye, guys.
See you next week. Bye, guys.